Christmas. It was a crisp winter day, and Berry the snail and Dolly the ladybird went into the woods to look for a bunch of Christmas greenery. Look, Berry, this little tree got knocked over in the storm. Let's take it home. We can decorate it for Christmas. Hooray! We'll have a real Christmas tree, Berry shouted. They lifted the tree up and saw a centipede sheltering under its branches. Help me, Berry. Let's put him on the sledge. He's hurt himself and looks very cold. We can take him to my house. They lifted the centipede carefully onto the sledge. Will he be all right? Berry worried. Of course he will, Dolly reassured her friend. When they got home, they put the poorly centipede to bed. Dolly made him hot tea, and Berry read him caterpillar stories from a storybook. Next morning, the centipede opened his eyes and smiled a little smile. He got better every day, and soon he was healthy again. Dolly asked him to stay. You're so nice. Don't go, centipede. Spend Christmas with us. Well, thank you. I'd love to stay. But what should we get him for Christmas? Dolly wondered. What would make a centipede happy? Dolly told him her idea. The little snail nodded excitedly. Berry and Dolly went to see the ants. The queen ant welcomed them with open arms. Dolly told them what kind of present she'd thought of. We can make anything you want, said the queen. Christmas came, and Berry and Dolly made a tree stand. As night fell, Berry gave Dolly her present. Merry Christmas, Dolly. Thank you, Berry, the ladybird said. She was delighted. It's beautiful. Dolly was very happy and wound the pretty ribbon around the tree. Merry Christmas to you too, Dolly said, and handed Berry his present. Sparklers, super! Let's put them on the tree. They lit the sparklers, and crackling sparks danced around the Christmas tree. The glittering light attracted lots of tiny fireflies, and each brought a Christmas decoration. Even the centipede helped to trim the tree. Soon the ants arrived carrying a parcel. They handed it to Berry and Dolly. This is our present to you, centipede, Berry said to him. Merry Christmas. Boots! He shouted happily. They'll keep your little feet warm when you're walking in the snow, Dolly explained. The friends' celebrations went on late into the night. There was Eddie the potato beetle, Stanley the stag beetle, Alfonzo the cricket, and Rosita the rose beetle. The fireflies built a big snowman with the little ants. They all sang and danced around the Christmas tree. Flutter the butterfly came to celebrate with them. Zephyr the dragonfly danced with Leapy the grasshopper. Berry and Dolly skipped around with Balthazar the bee. When the party was over, the centipede cleaned his boots and put them on a shelf. What a wonderful day I've had. It's a shame that Christmas only comes once a year. Berry and Dolly say, what will we learn today? The bicycle. One summer day, a pigeon delivered a parcel to Berry and Dolly. It was quite a big parcel and wrapped in pretty red paper and tied with a blue ribbon. Dolly read the note attached. It's It's from the centipede. Hooray! He's coming to visit us soon, and he sent us this present. To us? Berry asked. What do you mean? To me or you? It says in the letter that it's for us. It's a present for both of us, I suppose. That's silly, Berry argued. I'm sure it's meant to be for me because I was the one who found him in the snow last Christmas. But he stayed at my house. I looked after him and made him tea, Dolly replied. But I read him caterpillar stories from the storybook, Berry added. The red wrapping paper wasn't that strong and it soon tore open. Wheels poked out from underneath. It's a bicycle, Berry exclaimed. It's just perfect for me. No, it's just perfect for me, Dolly insisted. All right, you can have the bicycle if you want it so much. I'll be the bigger person. You're behaving like a silly baby. That upset Berry. That's not fair. I'm going to be the bigger person and you're the silly baby. You can have the bicycle. In the end, neither of them took the bicycle. They walked away and left the half-unwrapped bicycle in the meadow. Not long after that, Balthazar the bee and Flutter the butterfly came by.
What do you think it is? Is it a bicycle?
Balthazar asked. Yes, it looks like it, Flutter replied. There's a note stuck to it. It's for Berry and Dolly from the centipede.
Let's take it to them,
Balthazar suggested. They touched the bicycle and the rest of the wrapping paper fell off. This made them laugh. Look, it's a tandem. 2 people can ride it.
Let's have a go,
Balthazar said. Hello, Berry. Hello, Dolly. We brought you your bike. You left it in the meadow, Flutter shouted. Berry and Dolly came outside. They saw Flutter and Balthazar on the bicycle and felt very silly. Oh, it's a tandem. We can both sit on it. And we had such a fight about it. They made friends again and hugged each other happily. What a super present. We wasted all our time quarrelling and we haven't made anything for the centipede. He could arrive at any minute. Let's make him a colourful windmill. We can use pretty petals, Flutter suggested. Yes, that's a great idea, Berry and Dolly agreed. The 4 friends gathered red, purple, white, yellow and pink petals and made a windmill. Just then, the centipede arrived in a cart pulled by a mouse. The little mouse stopped in the meadow and the centipede climbed out. He gave Berry and Dolly a big hug. I see you got my present. I hope you like it. It's beautiful. We love it, Berry and Dolly said. And we made you this windmill. The centipede stayed with Berry and Dolly for 10 whole days. They went for long rides on their bicycle. They played a lot. They had a very good time, but the happy days passed soon. I have to go home now. I've had such a super time here. Do come and visit us again next summer, Berry and Dolly said, as they waved goodbye to their friend. Berry and Dolly say, what will we learn today? The scooter. One spring morning, Morris the Maybug decided to make himself a scooter. He spent the whole day sawing, drilling and hammering, and when he was finished, he painted the scooter black. Then he hurried to show his super scooter to his friends. The boys were all playing basketball in the meadow. Berry, Stanley, Balthazar, Eddie, Bubble and Alfonzo. Look at my new scooter. I made it all myself.
Can I have a try?
No one can borrow it. It's mine.
I only want to try it for a minute.
We'd like to have a go on it too, then we'll give it back. I'm not lending it to anyone, Morris told them again. The boys were so busy arguing that they didn't spot Eddie, who grabbed the scooter and rode off on it. Stop! Bring it back! It's my scooter and I didn't lend it to you. I'm not lending it to anyone. Eddie slowed down and Morris soon caught up with him. Give me my scooter back. Here you are. It doesn't go fast enough anyway. Not fast enough? Look at this. Not fast enough? You can hardly keep up with me, he shouted with a laugh, but he didn't see a big pothole in the middle of the road.
Watch out, Morris!
Balthazar, Berry and Stanley all shouted at once, but it was too late.
Well, you've only got yourself to blame, Morris,
Balthazar said in a snooty tone. What happened, Morris? Are you badly scratched? Why aren't you boys helping him? The rose beetle asked the others. It's all Morris's fault. It doesn't matter how it happened. He's really hurt himself and you should have helped. Come back to my house, Morris, and I'll clean those nasty scratches for you. Rosita sat Morris down and washed his wounds with a warm, wet cloth. It doesn't look that bad now. Morris started to sob. It was all my fault because I was mean to the others. If I hadn't been so mean, it wouldn't have happened. Then don't be mean next time. Thank you for all your help, Morris said as he left. It was nothing. You'll feel better soon. Morris limped all the way back to his house. The minute he got home, he jumped into bed and he was soon fast asleep. The little Maybug woke up the next morning with a wonderful idea. He got out his paints and brushes. I'm going to paint you pink. Look at you. I've brought this for you. Thank you for helping me yesterday. It looks lovely. Did you paint it? Rosita asked. Yes, I thought you wouldn't like it black. I love it. I'm going to ride it over to Dolly's house. Be careful. Have a safe ride. Morris walked home and he was about to eat his lunch when he heard a knock at the door.
Hello, Morris,
Balthazar said first.
We came to see if you were feeling better.
Much better, thank you, Morris shrugged. I promise that I won't take your scooter again, Eddie said with an apologetic smile. I haven't got it anymore. I painted it pink and gave it to Rosita. But I can make a new scooter, Morris said. I promised Rosita that I won't be mean again. Everyone can have a go on my new scooter when it's finished. Hooray! Bubbles shouted. Now would you all like a piece of apple pie? I baked it myself. Morris soon finished the new scooter. He painted it dark green. All the friends gathered in the meadow the next day and took turns to have a go on the two scooters. Berry and Dolly say, what will we learn today? The Kite. Berry the snail was still asleep when Dolly the ladybird knocked on his window. Good morning, Berry. Let's make a kite. Dolly drew a kite and Berry cut it out. They decorated it with colourful ribbons and then they tied it to a long piece of string. Let's see if it flies, Dolly said. They took each other's hand and set off to fly their kite. But no matter how hard the two of them tried, the kite just wouldn't fly. I'll climb up this tree and try it from there. Maybe then it'll fly, Dolly explained. But the kite just fell to the ground again. All of a sudden, the wind blew up and carried the kite away and took Dolly with it. Berry! Help! Berry climbed up the tree and grabbed Dolly's feet, but he couldn't pull her back, so now the two of them were flying. Balthazar the bee flew by. He caught hold of Berry's feet, but he couldn't pull the kite back either, so now the three of them were flying. Eddie the potato beetle was sitting on top of a pine tree. He caught Balthazar's feet, so now the four of them were flying.
Leapy, help!
Balthazar cried to the grasshopper, who was just hopping by. Leapy caught Eddie's feet, so now the five of them were flying. The wind got stronger and stronger. Flutter the butterfly flew by. She caught Leapy's feet, so now the six of them were flying. Stanley the stag beetle and Zephyr the dragonfly looked at their friends in despair. Oh dear, the wind's blowing us right into the forest. The kite got tangled in the top of a tall tree, and they landed in the treetops. The wind died down, and the sun came out. Berry gave the ladybird a worried look. Dolly, I can't fly. How am I going to get down from here? Don't worry, Berry. I'm sure we'll think of something. I know what to do. Jump into this blanket, Berry. Don't be afraid. You won't hurt yourself. Berry jumped down into the blanket and bounced back up in the air. Look at me. This is fun. We want to try, the others shouted. The little friends jumped up and down on the blanket until it got dark. Long after they were all in bed asleep, the wind blew up again and carried the kite far, far away. Berry and Dolly say, what will we learn today? The missing nuts. Hello, Berry. Hurry up. Let's go and see Reggie Squirrel. We really should say goodbye to him before he hibernates for winter, Dolly the ladybird said. Berry put on his hat, scarf and gloves, and the two friends made their way to Reggie Squirrel's home. Their friend the squirrel was sitting on a branch in front of his home. We wanted to say goodbye before you snuggle up to sleep through the chilly winter. Why don't you come up for a glass of juice and a quick nut snack? Reggie suggested. Look at all the yummy food I've gathered for winter. My pantry's full. But the pantry was empty. Oh my! Where have all my hazelnuts and walnuts gone? Where are my delicious pine cones, acorns and raisins? I think this might be where the nuts rolled out, Berry said, pointing to a little hole in the corner of the pantry. Someone's been chewing the tree trunk, Dolly said in surprise. And I think I know who it was, the little snail added. Don't worry, Reggie. We'll catch the troublemakers and find your nuts. And don't forget the pine cones and acorns too, the squirrel added. The two friends headed towards the big meadow. They heard loud laughter as they got closer.
I knew it was them. They're always getting into some sort of trouble,
Dolly whispered to Berry.
I'm sure they're doing something naughty right now,
Berry added.
Someone chewed a hole in Reggie Squirrel's tree trunk right outside his pantry, and now all of his nuts are missing.
It was you lot, wasn't it?
But we didn't mean any harm. We were just chewing the bark like we always do, and we didn't know that his pantry was on the other side,
the smallest bark beetle explained.
What can we do to help?
Come with us and we'll find the nuts that rolled away. We haven't got that much time. It could start to snow at any minute. We'll never be able to find his food in the snow, so hurry. They all took a close look at the tree trunk.
The nuts all rolled out here and then they fell to the ground and carried on rolling down the hill,
Reggie explained. The gang of friends found Reggie's goodies in a pile at the bottom of the hill.
Hooray!
Reggie shouted with delight.
Would you please bring all the food back to my home while I patch the hole up in my pantry?
Reggie told the bark beetles. They carefully placed the hazelnuts, walnuts and acorns back in his pantry. Berry and Dolly gave them a hand. They worked as fast as they could, but it got dark very quickly, and they still had a huge stack left at the bottom of the hill.
We'll never finish in time,
one of the bark beetles sighed.
We could really use some extra help,
another added. Berry the snail suddenly sprang to his feet and left in a hurry without saying a word. He was soon back and had a trumpet in his hand. He blew it so loudly that everybody could hear it. Soon all the friends in the forest gathered. Dolly climbed up on a big boulder and told them all what had happened to Reggie Squirrel's winter food supply.
All the nuts rolled out of the hole. We've got to take the food back to Reggie's home. If you all help, it can be done before dark.
Ready, set, go, Berry said, and he lifted a nut from the pile. He gave it to Dolly. She handed it to one of the bark beetles. The bark beetle gave it to the bee handed it to the dragonfly, and so it moved back up the hill to the squirrel's pantry. By the time the moon appeared in the sky, all the hazelnuts, acorns, walnuts and chestnuts were safely stowed away in Reggie Squirrel's winter home. Reggie happily put the last nut back in his packed pantry.
Thank you. I'm so glad I've got so many good friends. It's time for me to tuck myself up in bed before it starts snowing. See you again in spring.
The grateful squirrel yawned.
Berry and Dolly say, what will we learn today? Pebbles. One sunny summer afternoon, Dolly decided to cook a strawberry cake. She asked Stanley the stag beetle and Balthazar the bee to go and collect wild strawberries in the forest. The two boys set off. Balthazar soon spotted a pebble in the middle of the path, and he started to kick it along. But Stanley also liked the look of the pebble, and he tackled it off Balthazar.
That's not fair, Stanley. I found it. I want to kick it down the path.
It's my pebble now. Find another pebble to kick.
But I found it, so it's mine.
Balthazar moaned. There are loads of pebbles. Find another one, Stanley said, trying to close the argument. But Balthazar wouldn't leave it at that. He pushed Stanley out of the way so that he could kick the pebble. The two of them continued to push and shove until they both tumbled down the hill into the babbling brook. Alfonzo the cricket came out of his house to see what all the noise was about.
What's going on?
He asked.
It's all Stanley's fault. He took my pebble.
It wasn't your pebble. I was just a better kicker.
That's enough of that,
Alfonzo interrupted.
Come inside, get dry, and then tell me all about what started this silly argument.
The two boys muttered to themselves as they followed the cricket into his little house. They hung their wet clothes out in the hot sun and sat wrapped in towels while they waited for them to dry. Alfonzo gave them both a glass of lemonade and a biscuit. The sun's warm rays soon dried the clothes. Stanley and Balthazar munched sulkily on their biscuits. They told Alfonzo all about what had happened and how they had rolled down the hill into the brook.
I've got a whole collection of pebbles.
Pebbles, can we have a look?
Balthazar enthused.
Of course.
Alfonso said with a proud smile, and he placed a large box on the table. Where did you find all these lovely pebbles? Stanley asked.
Down by the brook. You can collect some too if you like.
They filled their baskets with pebbles. They sat sorting them and organising them until it started to get dark. The little stag beetle and the bee boy said goodbye to their cricket friend and started to walk back up the hill. They soon came to Dolly's house. The little ladybird girl shouted angrily out of the window. Where are the strawberries?
Oh dear.
The strawberries.
We forgot the strawberries.
Dolly, look at the lovely pebbles we collected with Alfonzo.
What am I supposed to do with them? Make pebble cakes? I asked for strawberries.
But we forgot.
Stanley admitted, and he told her the whole long story. Well, I see. Let me have a look at those pebbles if you didn't bring any strawberries. We should paint something on them. This one looks just like a little house. And this one, I might paint a smiley face on it.
That's a super idea. We can invite the others and spend all day painting pebbles.
Great.
The next morning, Berry the little snail boy arrived at Dolly's house with Flutter the butterfly, Zephyr the dragonfly, Leapy the grasshopper, Eddie the potato beetle and Bubble the baby beetle.
Where are Stanley and Balthazar?
Berry asked with a disappointed sigh. Here we are, the stag beetle and the bee boy announced, and they proudly presented Dolly with a big basket of strawberries. Oh, thank you, the little ladybird girl said, and she mixed the cake while the others got to work painting the pebbles. When they had finished, they invited Alfonzo to come and see their exhibition.
They all look really good. I'll bring my pebbles tomorrow and we can paint them too,
the cricket told his friends. When the strawberry cake was ready, they all sat around the table and ate every last crumb. Berry and Dolly say, what will we learn today?
Friends. It was a super sunny day and Dolly the ladybird sat staring out of the window. I'm going to eat breakfast, she thought, and then I'll go for a walk in the meadow. She decided to take her wheelbarrow with her. I wonder if I'll find something interesting to take home in my wheelbarrow, she thought to herself. Goodness me, said Dolly. What a lovely red cherry. That's just perfect for my lunch. She tried to lift the cherry into her wheelbarrow, but it was far too heavy. Too heavy for one little ladybird. Just then, Berry the snail appeared. Why the sad face, ladybird? Asked Berry. I can't lift this cherry into my wheelbarrow, Dolly replied. Don't cry, I'll help you, Berry said with a smile. And the two of them picked the cherry up with no trouble at all. Dolly set straight off home with the juicy cherry. Now it was Berry who looked sad. Don't you want to share the cherry with me? The snail said, and stamped his little foot. I did help you. But I found it first, Dolly snapped. You're not having any, it's mine. Berry was very upset. The two of them started to fight over the cherry. It's mine, shouted Dolly. That's not fair, Berry shouted back. They pushed and pulled the cherry until it split in two. Berry and Dolly plopped to the ground. They were very surprised when a green grub crawled out of the cherry.
What have you done to my cherry?
He grumbled.
That cherry was my home. Oh, don't look so upset,
The grub said.
I know where we can find plenty more. You can eat cherries while I find a new home for myself.
Dolly helped the grub into her wheelbarrow, and they all set off to look for the cherry tree. When they arrived, they found the ground around the cherry tree was covered in ripe red fruit. Berry and Dolly jumped for joy. The grub fell fast asleep while Berry and Dolly munched away on fresh cherries, and the time soon flew by. It was getting late, so they decided to go home, but this time with 2 cherries. One for Dolly and one for Berry. The sun was setting by the time they reached Berry's house. They took his cherry out of the wheelbarrow and said goodbye. Berry went inside and waved to Dolly from the window. Berry soon fell fast asleep after such an exciting day. The little snail dreamt about playing in cherries with Dolly and eating until their tummies were full. Then Dolly got back home and went straight to bed. From that day on, Berry and Dolly were the best of friends.
Berry and Dolly say, what will we learn today?
Alfonzo's Fiddle. One autumn day, Alfonzo the cricket stood happily playing his fiddle in the mushroom field. The forest friends were all enjoying the lovely music. The little ants were playing football on the hill. But oh dear, the ball bounced away and knocked the fiddle clean out of Alfonzo's hands. Alfonzo shouted in horror.
My fiddle! My fiddle's broken!
And then he burst into tears. He was sobbing so loudly that everyone came to see what the fuss was all about. Alfonzo pointed angrily at the spotty ball.
That ball is to blame, and those naughty ants. Where am I going to get a fiddle from now?
He picked his broken fiddle up, went into his house and slammed the door shut behind him. Alfonzo, come out. I'm sure we can help you, Berry pleaded. But Alfonzo didn't want to see anybody. His friends sat sadly in the mushroom field and didn't know what to do. Then Dolly had an idea. I know. Let's make Alfonzo a new fiddle. Yes, let's make a new fiddle, Flutter the butterfly nodded. I know who can help us. We have to find Charlie the click beetle. He made Alfonzo's first fiddle. The band of friends set off and walked until they reached a blue house. They knocked on the door. A tiny, timid beetle popped his head out. He wore a blue hat and had beautiful dark blue wings. Who are you? He asked. Dolly told Charlie the whole story. Oh, don't be sad. If that's your problem, I'm happy to help. Alfonzo will be playing music on his new fiddle in no time at all. The click beetle gave everybody a job to do. Some collected wood for the body of the fiddle, while others gathered grass for the strings. Now he had everything he needed. Charlie got to work. He sawed, sanded, polished and waxed. And then, like a little miracle, the new fiddle was ready.
Can I try it?
Dolly asked.
No, it's Alfonso's instrument,
Flutter told her.
but I want to have my own musical instrument.
Dolly sulked.
Me too,
The little ants shouted.
Quiet,
Said Charlie.
why don't you all start an orchestra? A great big orchestra. Like a music band? And everybody could have their own instrument? That's a very good idea.
The first thing they made was a harp for Dolly. Stanley the stag beetle got a double bass, and Eddie the potato beetle had a cello. Berry made a trumpet out of a lily. Morris the maybug made a horn from a honeysuckle flower. The big spider used horse chestnuts and acorns for drums, whilst Zephyr and Leapy made cymbals out of pebbles. Charlie carved flutes from birch twigs for the ants. Flutter the butterfly got a lute, and Balthazar the bee got a zither. Bubble the baby beetle played a triangle. They all had a quick practice and then headed for Alfonso's house. Alfonso heard the music and looked out of his window to see where it was coming from. He was surprised by what he saw.
Please, Alfonso,
The little ant began.
don't be mad at us for breaking your fiddle. We'd like you to have this new one as a present. Charlie made it.
Alfonso began to play straight away, and the sound of his fiddle filled the forest once more.